Hi, how's it? In the name of Christ, it's your girl Crank. Hey, Gikarabo. I hope you're good. I hope you're peachy. I hope you're Stella, and I hope you're in a neat little bunch. Hey, what's up? It's Friday, the 1st of December 2023. I skipped yesterday in terms of chatting over here because I was backlogged so badly that if I had continued to work, I was going to encounter issues with being behind, and it makes me very uneasy, uncomfortable, and on the edge of the seat. So yeah, I'm all caught up, so we're back. You're gonna probably notice that I skipped a day, even with my uploads on YouTube. Boo-hoo. It's not like anyone is watching. Look, I've invested in a fan, except I haven't really invested. It's a Takealot delivery box, basically, that I cut up to create a fan for myself because it's just boiling in here. It's a sauna, okay? I told you guys that I live in some pretty ridiculous conditions. I don't even know why I keep trying to make my hair look better, because at this point it's like, really, who notices and who cares? Alright guys, you know what, like I seriously don't know what to say anymore, but you know, we'll talk until further notice, because I told you guys that what's important with my particular life is to keep pitching. It's to keep rocking up, to keep coming to speak. Because if I don't, I literally die. And the past few days I've been speaking about South Africa and how deadbeat, like ungodly, it entirely is, especially in the black community, with all of their mixing of Christianity with all different kinds of things. I do not know why people do not fear consequences of their actions. If something is unholy, you should not trust in it, because look, you reap what you sow. First, before, let me just put some caveats out there. I haven't done that. I am using application makeup. That's what's going on over there on the face. So if it bounces up and down, it's an app. It's not the real deal, so I understand that. Number two, my captions are not always accurate, so look out for that. I don't have time to edit them because I'm just inundated with so very many other things that I'm doing, and so I literally do not have time to be dealing with the fact that my captions are inaccurate or whatever. Let me sit back a little bit more. Yeah, I don't have time to focus on the fact that my captions are inaccurate. I just don't. One day I might. I don't have time to edit them. One day, should the Lord continue to linger this concern, maybe I'll do it. But I seriously, guys, you know, it's just, everything is looking so much like the world is over that even when I talk anything at all about the future, I feel like I'm wasting energy and breath, because there is no future for the earth and its inhabitants at this rate. You know, like, without repentance, if mankind lingers in a state of unrepentance for just like an indefinite amount of time, non-stop, if there is no end to the wickedness, it's the end. And I've never really lived in any other era in history, so I cannot compare what's going on in the world right now to any other time. Enough to say this, it's never been this bad. But we read history textbooks, and you know, there often comes an end to a certain craziness, but we don't know, okay? I want it to be over. I want the rapture to happen, but I don't know. Alright, like, seriously speaking, I don't have a clue. Listen, we reap what people reap. Things, look, the earth operates in a very predictable fashion. We are creatures of habit for those reasons. We reap what we sow, okay? So what rational person with common sense in their minds really conjures up so much evil and expects to be okay? I've been getting nightmares, dreams, whatever you want to call them, the past 2 days, I guess, since I've been on downtime or whatever, of former people in my life, like, and one of them is my older sister. Yeah, she might be my sister, but she is literally a former person in my life, just like my former best friend is just never coming back to being what it is that we used to be. I had a dream about some chick I went to varsity with. We were friends. Former person too, like, just trying to come back and act like nothing happened. Like, act like nothing happened. And you know, for the victims of witches, for the victims of people who have been afflicted by people, there is nothing more patronizing and heartbreaking than people insisting on talking to you like you're crazy and continuing on with life as normal. Nkare, the thing that you raised 5 days ago is not still an issue. Imagine being like dating a guy, okay? And then one day you have an argument, the two of you. And then he just he whams you with a slap on the face in the middle of that argument, and then walks out and bangs the door. He doesn't then call you after that. He doesn't call you for like a month, right? So you're sitting there on some shocked out of your mind, like, did he literally just slap me? Did I just get a beating from a guy? Was I just GBV'd? Was I just gender-based violenced? And you're shocked that, oh my goodness, I can't believe I dated a guy that hit me. But after he hit you, he walked out and he never called you again. So you imagine that at least his activity of walking out and not calling you again is evidence of the fact that he realizes that there's no coming back from that crappy activity. He did not call you because he realizes there's no coming back from that. He realizes that he stepped over something. He crossed the line and there's no coming back from that. So that's why he didn't call you. You are now all recovered. Your face has healed. The blue eye is gone. You decided not to press charges. Yeah. And then after a month, he calls you on some, babe, hey, I miss you. How you doing? I'm sorry that you and I had a disagreement, but couples fight. Come on, I love you. And then he just goes on and talks about how it is that he would love for you guys to talk and reconcile. But he never raises the slap. He admits that you fought. He admits you had a falling out. He admits that you broke up. But he never admits that he slapped you. What height of gaslighting is that? Like, he's literally trying to make you second guess that he is a violent man. He's trying to make you feel like, no, I never hit you. What are you talking about? To a point where when he talks to you next time, he doesn't even raise it. He doesn't even raise it. As I hit you, goodness gracious, I don't know what came over me. Can we talk? But nah, he is literally gliding over it. Everything else that he did do, like the argument, the disagreements, his attitude that he gave you, he will admit to that, but not the slap. Why not the slap? Because the slap was for you a deal breaker. And so if at all he hits you, he knew that that was it. So in order for him to come back into your life, he then completely rewrites history in his own image, where it is that he is now saying every couple fights. Yeah, every couple fights, but it is not every couple where a man is beating a woman. That's a toxic relationship that a woman, if she's responsible with her future, will not allow herself to linger in. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if at all he's gaslighting you that much, if he is saying that, babe, let's get together, and he's not even trying to raise the slap, and when you do raise it, he then gets angry. When you raise the fact that, but you hit me, Themba, whatever his ludicrous name might be, but Themba, you hit me, he then gets angry, as in, what? Goodness gracious, how dare you accuse me of that? You know I'd never do anything of that nature. What do you take me for? So that then graduates to another extra level of gaslighting. Until you, what Themba's basically expecting is for you to get to a point where you now accept or you embrace the fact that he didn't hit you. Because he is that excellent at making you second guess your own sense of reality. That is psychological manipulation. That is a toxic relationship beyond even a wife beater that at least admits he's beating his wife. That is an individual that is literally making you crazy. Walk in a maze, in some kind of a never-ending loop of wonderment, bewilderment concerning what actually happened. And when that is a person that is still in your life, you are the ridiculous one here for letting them back in. You are the, basically crazy, ludicrous, insane one in the picture to allow somebody that's psychologically manipulative to come back into your life because they're literally trying to make you feel like any day now you should be taking medication or in a stray suit in a psychiatric ward. Yeah, well, when that is the thing that you're dealing with at this point, it is safe and self-preserving, frankly, to make a decision to cut that person off and never want anything to do with them ever again. And if at all they try to talk to you, ignore them like they're crazy, because that's exactly what they are. Gauge them as a stalker, a freak, a psychopath, a person that you're in dire need of a restraining order against, given that they don't want to listen to your petitions for them leaving you alone. They will not cease their hostilities against you by insisting on knocking on your door, and in so insisting on knocking on your door also insist that you basically embrace the status of being psychotic and one who is hearing things, and worse off even seeing things. Yeah, when people walk in a deal breaker and then they want to come back into your life by claiming that the deal breaker never happened, by claiming that the thing that is making you decide you don't want anything to do with them anymore never happened, that's when you not only need to write that person off, but you need to move home and basically bury yourself in some corner of the earth where they can never find you. You can never ever bleep on their radar. And should they find you, you will literally move again. They should be avoided like the plague. If all of your spraying of them with doom, if all of your spraying of them with pestilence, with pesticide does not achieve the success of warding them off, if they don't take no for an answer, then I guess you are the one that needs to keep on moving. You need to keep on slamming the door in their face. The moment you open that door and they're still there, you must slam the door. You must slam the door and start to evacuate the ecosystem, because you've got a pest all up in your grill, much like a pathogen that's spreading like hastily through your body, metastasizing, threatening you with death. You need to leave. There are people who are so toxic that they cause you to end up insane in the eventual run if you don't get out. And I am encircled by a nation of that nature. I cannot say this enough. I need to get out of South Africa. I need to leave my family. I need to get out from an ecosystem that is so crazy that frankly they need to be left. They need to be left because they won't leave you. They will not leave you alone. You are better off packing your house, selling it, grabbing everything in some kind of those camper vehicles, and being on the road. And being on the road as you are, you need to also be prepared to always just basically be on the road again. Like, you can't even live in a house anymore when you're dealing with people like those. You gotta live in a camper vehicle that can drive away every time they find you again. Because if you don't get out from lives of people like those, you are going to end up in a psychiatric hospital. You will never know what is real. You will never know what is true. And that individual in question is going to also be used against you by anyone that has a bone to pick with you. Anyone that wants to deny that you ever said anything or that they ever said anything to you, anyone that wants to deny anything where you're concerned, will always use that person if you leave them around. That's the nature. That's the thing about a narcissist. Like, everybody in your life that has got something to fight with you over can use them, because they're that excellent at manipulating. They are psychological abusers, and they're full of trickery. You just need to always remember who you are and what you want and what you know you saw, and stand on it. Because if you don't stand on it, you are going to be the puppet of some pretty nefarious people for the rest of your days. You are going to be at the beck and call of some horrible human beings for the rest of your day. Like, you cannot. I can take a confession any day in my stride, insofar as you don't freaking gaslight me and pretend the thing that caused you to need to confess in the first place never happened. Insofar as you don't keep around with that, maybe we can talk. But a person that is going to make me forget that I saw something, a person that is going to try and make me forget that is toxic. That is somebody that might as well start planning your funeral, because who it is that you were is gone. They are dead and they are buried. Because that's what that person is doing. Slowly but surely, they are chipping away at you. They are chipping away at who you are until nothing of you is left anymore. South Africa is teeming at the folds with people like that. It is teeming at the folds with witches and witchcraft. And guys, the level of insanity, you know, when you cope by laughing, when you cope with something by laughing because you don't know how else to react, it's like thoroughly a coping mechanism, because it is just so bizarre that anybody at all would walk in that fashion, that all you can do is laugh, because you literally don't know how a person with a straight face can look at you and anticipate a certain response out of you, when it would be an abomination for you to give that response. I keep getting all of these dreams where people are literally coming back into my life with like a whole freaking decade did not just progress. Like 10 years. Like, guys, can we please just make like little children and count to 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That a woman has been struggling to stay alive, and then you want to rock up and just have coffee, when you're the one that put them in a position to escape bullets, when you're the one that put them in a position to survive suicide ideation. How in the world I've not killed myself so far? is beyond me. There is this guy whose content I watch on CBN News. I forgot his name. He's a war correspondent. And he was giving his experience the other day, talking about how if it was not for his relationship, CBN is Christian Broadcasting Network. It is a Christian viewpoint of the world. He was talking about how if he had not given his life to Jesus, if he wasn't saved, if he had the job that he had as a war correspondent, but without being born again, he doesn't even know where he would be, because it's the kind of job that can give a person a severity of post-traumatic stress, maybe even land you in a psychiatric hospital, cause you to lose your mind altogether. And he spoke about how it is that he's got many colleagues that have committed suicide just because of the horrific things they saw being war correspondents. That man speaks sense, he speaks soundness when he says he does not know where he would be, because he feels as if though the reason why he can still eat blueberries, drink tea, smile with family, and not be messed up because of his job as a war correspondent is because of Jesus Christ. I don't know how I have survived 10 years of neglect, abuse, isolation, gaslighting, mistreatment, insistence that I settle, I capitulate, insistence that I become someone I am not, insistence that I embrace rape, insistence that I take in my stride, losses that are so monumental, losses of such great magnitude without justice that I just take them in my stride, move on and act like it never happened. And all the people who brought about all that level of calamity in my life, all that girth of loss in my life, I must also embrace bumping into them anywhere in the street and greeting them like nothing happened, talking to them like nothing happened, letting some of them even come and break bread with me in my quarters where it is that I live, like people who have utterly shattered and devastated my entire life and are now today not murderers only because I have survived suicide. Today they are not murderers only because I have been given like supernatural strength to survive an entire decade of isolation and severity of loss. These people now want to just go back to normal already. They want to go back to normal. Like, they're tired of this taboo hanging over their head. They are exhausted with this, what they call elephant in the freaking room that I am. And so as exhausted as they are with the elephant in the room that won't stop trumpeting on top of a mountain nochal over an entire village in order for them to stop the noisome, like, theatrics of this elephant, they have got to now at least bring the elephant into the village and live with it. Even though it's also got polka dots all over the show, so really it's very visible. Not only is it visible, it is loud. Not only is it loud, it's an elephant, so it's big, it's huge. And no one can really truly sleep soundly when there is a big fat chunky elephant, like I said, in the room. People are trying to just go back to normal already. I'm sorry, on the day you decided to be a little bit of a masochist, on the day you made a decision to be a whole terrorist against your own friends, your own family members, on the day you made a decision to shatter and devastate your own household with witchcraft, you were raising up from the ground baby elephants, and now that they're all grown up, you don't get to just say, please, just be person again, be human again. How about you just act normally like nothing ever happened? I'm sorry, you're no longer my mother, you are no longer my sister, you're no longer my friend, you are just some creep that is trying to make a person that you have ignored for an entire freaking decade to basically forget everything, because it's in her best interest to forget, otherwise she'll never have a normal life again. That is what people are thoroughly expecting me to do. I have become a disquieting affair. I have become like an urchin in your pants. I've become like a cactus on your bed. Do you understand? They cannot sleep, they're tossing and turning at night because I have made out of them a spectacle of wondrous witches. It is clear that what they have done is an abomination. It is obvious, it is clear that there is an obscurity over here that ought not be. I am the thing that survived their cancer that is metastasizing all over the body, and now they're trying to make it look as if though it was just a common cold and not a cancer that is lethal and is metastasizing and is not ever going to go into remission unless some people admit that there's a freaking cancer in the room. Like, I don't get how in the world, under heaven, people do not anticipate that they will ever reap what they sow. Just because a person has been ignored for years does not mean that a person can successfully be made to believe that nothing ever happened just for the sake of a normal life. I would become catatonic. Do you understand? I would become a zombie, walking around with barely any sentiency left in my body if I were to encircle myself with people that devastated my life to this place, to this point, and act like it's normal. Like, what the heck? You all got to go on with your careers and do what you did. You went and popped your babies with your deadbeat baby daddies, and you did exactly what you wanted to do. You attended parties, you broke bread. You went on right ahead to climb up whatever ladders you wanted to climb, while I stayed stagnant in the same exact position, albeit being smarter than literally all of you. And then you want to rock up and act towards me. Ingati, none of that ever happened? For real? Kanete. Yeah, well, it's good, because I have a YouTube channel where I've been recording my life for a decade, so that it might be clear, stark, that I am an elephant that is very heavily disquieted with the prospect of being disregarded, seeing as I am in everybody's room. I am in everybody's room, and I'm not going anywhere. But a world that will act continuously aloof and make you therefore despondent upon gazing at this aloofness in a multiplied fashion, exponentially, where it's literally reaching the ends of the earth. That's not a world that is sustainable. Do you understand? The lies that heap up to the heavens, since you are like your father the devil, are going to ultimately be recompensed by a holy God. He has given you time to repent, and if you don't understand, given that this thing is generally it's ubiquitous, it is like literally a problem on the planet. It is a problem on the planet, given that it's an issue on the planet and not so much in your own little corner of a satanic earth, in your little satanic corner, of the earth. Yeah, given that it's not an isolated incident just chilling somewhere in some village in South Africa, but it's appearing to be across the globe. It looks to me, guys, that we're going home. Like, I have been listening all day, waiting for a cool enough time, because I get too hot. If at all I work during the day. I thought I could work earlier, but I can't, because the fan, I have to switch it off in order to talk, otherwise it's too loud in the background. Yeah. So I spent the time basically playing Candy Crush on my phone, and listening in the background to some YouTube videos as this whole war in the Middle East is being covered between Israel and Hamas. Yeah. With me watching this footage as it is being covered, you know, the amount of bending over backwards and jumping through hoops that the Israelis, the IDF, and also journalists, reporters have to walk in that are pro-Israel. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Like, the world, goodness gracious, Hebatung, lies and deception, the deception of the last days, the information war of the last days is just something that is ever so really very quite astronomical. When did human beings stop valuing truth? When did humanity as a conglomerate, as a total, as a collective, stop valuing truth? When was fact-checked and substantiated, backed up data? When did it stop being worth the while to run with? Because on the date that there was a decline from sound reporting, on the date when people rejected facts when they were presented to them, when they started to do that just to proliferate a particular narrative, that was the beginning of the end. And right now, with this incendiary attack on Israel that happened on the 7th of October, with all of the lies, now that the IDF is going in, has gone in with their ground offensive, the lies that have been proliferated by news networks across the world, it's like I often wonder, what's in it for you? There is absolutely nothing in it for all of these deliberately trying to disregard truth news networks. There's nothing in it for them to stand with lies. And so all I can think about is the devil is working on you. There is nothing in it for them. Not unless they're like controlled opposition, and there is a puppet master behind them, walking in a Hegelian dialectic, where they're trying to use the news networks of the world to proliferate lies so as to pontificate, indeed, war. And if then you spread war, you then create a cause or a need for security. You cause fatigue from that war. You cause war fatigue in the planet. And when you cause war fatigue in the planet, you therefore then cause people to be more prepared to down tools on their stand for anything at all, just for the sake of peace. And that's when then there can be global control by a small minority over the global population. All I can think about is the only reason why some reporters in the US of A, especially in America, why some news networks like CNN, etc., why they are standing with Hamas when it is obviously so wrong, when all of that rubbish is obviously so clearly, starkly in everybody's faces, must be because there's nothing in it for them that I can think about other than if there are powers, forces behind even those reporters at CNN that they don't see, neither understand, that are insisting that the world break out into the hives of anti-Semitism and into the hives of any other kind of just war rhetoric sentiment, so as to bring about a global control of people by a small minority. That's the only reason right now that is perhaps conjured up by human beings that I can think about. But the other more likely reason is that the devil is so succeeding to deceive the world that they are literally running with lies and exchanging bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, right for wrong, good for evil. All I can think about is that this is the great deception, and it is apart from us. It is a war that we are in that is not of flesh and blood, and so people are just being lingered in insanity. If you go on TikTok, which I am not on, but I listen to enough people who watch TikTok, there is currently a trend where kids are embracing some letter written by Osama bin Laden as like gospel truth for crying out loud. And a whole bunch of Gen Zs are converting to Islam. How in the world? And these Gen Zs, of which some of which are in America of which it's just this little queen that does not really know much strife, and upon it not knowing much strife can have the liberty or the luxury to pontificate rubbish like there is no such thing as gender. And so therefore you get like some girl that's now a boy thoroughly standing with Islam, unawares to herself as to the calamities that they would endure if they were chilling in the Middle East with that kind of sexual status or orientation. But these Gen Zs are nonetheless converting because they're being convinced by mainstream media that is more respected than other voices that are more aligned with the truth. Yeah, they are listening to these places and they are converting a planet of souls to Islam. There was a ceasefire in Israel, not in Israel, in Gaza, for a couple of days, and during that ceasefire there was a break of the ceasefire where some Israelis that lived at some Palestinians that lived in the West Bank that were members of Hamas went into some city, a town in Israel, and started to just shoot, and now 4 people are dead, and it was caught on camera and everything in the middle of a ceasefire. That's what under heaven it is, that was recorded on camera and shared with the world, and yet they are still standing with Hamas. When people can be okay with that level of violence against a people that have got literally exculpatory evidence to support their rather innocence and their rather desire to foster peace and live at unity with the people around them, people who have made displays, who have displayed in history that they don't want to fight, but that keep on getting poked and prodded away at by violent people. Yeah, these people are being turned against by an entire planet of souls thanks to rhetoric in the media. And not only that, they're converting people to Islam. They're basically trying to explain to people that it's okay to just get out of your vehicle, act like you're, just gonna cross the street, and then instead of crossing the street, you take out a pistol and you start shooting indiscriminately at random people that are just walking up and down in the street. Yeah. They're convincing Gen Zs in America and everywhere else across the world that it's okay to belong to a religion like that and to have that level of hatred against the Jews. That is like a thing on its own. The whole issue with the world disregarding information that is sound, that is basically a backup of claims or statements made by people who are pro-Israel. Yeah. So there is substantiation of information. There's backup, there's proof. Fact-checking, it produces results on one side, but it doesn't on the other. But the world is running with the other anyway. I find, Elon Musk is South African. He is now staying in the US, okay? He is this whole tech giant guy. And Elon Musk is providing Starlink or whatever to Israel. Basically the Middle East there, the operation of Starlink. However, it is under control largely by Israel and not so much anybody in Gaza. But before Elon Musk made that decision, he was asking this question: why is Israel bombing Gaza? I mean, Elon Musk, come on. Did he not watch the news? Was he not sitting somewhere there where he's sitting and then hearing information coming into his ears on the 7th of on the 7th of October. Elon Musk was literally asking, why is Israel bombing Gaza? Why is Israel fighting Gaza? Upon trying to make a decision who to give ownership rights of Starlink, he had to be invited to Israel. He could only, he went to Israel and not Gaza because no one is safe there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for this big fat chunky global elite to want to get clarity on something, and the only place where you can get it is in Israel, evidences that there is livability, peaceability, and rationale in Israel in a way that just does not exist in Gaza. That's the first thing. So Elon Musk basically has common sense to stand with the right side, and yet he's still acting a fool. He's playing dead. Watifeintisa, he had to be shown that heinous tape of Hamas the helmet cameras, where it is that they were raping women, they were killing babies, they were sewing them in half, etc., in order for him to make a decision to give the power to control what is a Starlink to Israel. Like, what under heaven is going on? My thing with the whole Elon Musk thing is exactly what I'm trying to speak about right now. The fact that when you are innocent, you have to jump through hoops, bend over backwards, and basically produce mountains of evidence for your decision to act a particular way, in a way that the opposing party that has afflicted you in this way does not have to produce it. And also in a way that the opposing party, upon them not needing to produce data, also over and above it, fabricate data. They fabricate data. Apparently Gigi Hadid, or is it Bella, one of the Hadid sisters, lied on Twitter and ultimately had to bring her post down. Do you understand? Because she was confirmed as a liar. But people are happy to just proliferate Magandefela, to intensify anti-Semitism across the world in a way that is telling me that this is over, because first it's anti-Semitism and then it's going to basically spill over into anybody that stands very strongly with the Jews. And at this present moment, the richest, most supportive party for the Jews are the Christians. So this anti-Semitism is going to result in hard-knock Christian persecution too, inevitably. And this Gigi Hadid lady, was it Bella? I think it was Gigi, right? Yeah, one of those sisters. She was basically saying that the Israelis, something that is so uncharacteristic of them, they've never done anything of that nature. Just these accusations that are so flagrantly like a lie for the only democracy in the Middle East. Like, let's just put that out there. There's always anti-government protests going on all around the Middle East. Only listen to the ones. Go check out the ones that have been going on against Iran. The only democracy in the Middle East. And so therefore they have rules. They've got standards. All right? They are pro-human life. That's what's good. Like, they went on right ahead to... Bella went on right ahead to put a post on Twitter, or what is now officially known as X, about this only democracy in the Middle East that has rules. It has laws. It does not just do what it wants, because that's the whole of the law. It is not an anarchy state. Israel is not an anarchy state in a way that Gaza is an anarchy state to a certain extent. Iran is an anarchy. Like, there's just no control. There's the rules don't matter. They do whatever they want to do just to get their matter ahead. It's obviously cantankerous and chaotic, and it is untrustworthy. And even all of those pro-Palestinian people living in London, those living in New York, living in Europe and North America respectively, they would not want to live there. They would not want to live in Gaza. If anything, there is a story being covered by is a DW News, which is extremely pro-Palestinian, and I can't stand them. They struggle to be impartial as a news network. They covered a story of a woman, a Palestinian woman, but with a British citizenship, who found herself on the 7th of October in Palestine. She was there, and not Gaza. She was in Gaza, and she is now living in a refugee camp having fled upward northwards because of the war that has ensued over there. And they are literally conveniently neglecting to highlight the fact that this woman is even in that position at all because of Palestinians, because of Hamas. She's in that position, and she can't even get back to Europe. She wants desperately to leave that war zone because she went in before her people went irresponsible against Israel. And then she now is trapped there, and all she can think about is how she just wants to get out of Gaza. She wants to get out of Gaza. Yeah. Ofuna upuma e Gaza, evidencing that even all of these pro-Palestinian randos all across the world would not want to live in Gaza themselves. They go there for 5 seconds in humanitarian capacities, as what do you call this, journalists or people that want to cover the story on the ground, and cross their fingers the whole time that some hard knock war does not break out, so that I can get on an airplane and go back to London. I want to go on an airplane and go back to America. Let me go on an airplane and go back to South Africa. So they in and of themselves would never want to stay in that region, and yet they are out here proliferating all that level of rubbish that's making people live there, that live over there permanently, endure even grander hardship. Yeah, anyway, the fact that people have to bend over backwards, jumping through hoops, to prove their innocence against that body of people is ridiculous. And yet that same body of people is happy to also fabricate lies that are quickly debunked, quickly debunked, and they still get stood for. One case in point. Out of this, even this hostage, guys, I don't know, Yazzie, why people, I don't know why they're not rational. Think about how many numbers, individual bodies of people, warm bodies, were released from Israel in exchange for Israeli hostages. The numbers alone evidence that somebody here is unfairly dealt a bad blow. But the world does not care. Israel had to release, no, not Palestinian hostages. Israel does not hold any hostages, but Palestinian prisoners who had committed crimes in Israel. They had committed actual crimes in Israel, and they were set free in exchange for hostages. Civilians that were law-abiding, that never committed a single crime. That was the exchange. And people are not waking up to smell the coffee. Good is called evil, and evil is called good. And among the released Palestinian prisoners was some boy who was recorded by the Palestinians in bandages and patched up and making a statement on a camera about how it is that he was tortured by Israel and dealt a bad blow and barely fed and all that jazz when he was in jail. And it took the Israelis releasing footage of him getting released in prison, looking healthy, smiling, everything to the cameras, in the pink of health, skin bright as day, and he was fat. He was healthy, and it was displayed that at the time of him getting released, there were no such bruises on his body. So either they put a whole bunch of makeup on him, or they beat him up and claimed that it was Israel. And they proliferated this, and that stuff went viral in the media. That is how below the belt the Palestinians are. That is how below the belt Hamas is. And Israel has to bend over backwards to prove that no, we don't do that to people. Bella Hadid, or Gigi Hadid, what she said on Twitter was that Israel went and just arrested, remember, let's just put this out there, the only democracy in the Middle East. A democracy tends to, upon arresting people, read them their rights, and upon putting them in prison, gives them a right to representation, a legal representation, and they go through a fair trial, and then they get prosecuted and then sentenced. That's what happens in a democracy. So if a person finds themselves in jail in a democracy, understand the whole process, due process, had to be undergone. Do you understand? Yeah. But herein lies Gigi Hadid saying that Israel went and grabbed a 13-year-old kid off the street, about a 13-year-old Palestinian kid off the street, and put them in jail. A 13-year-old. Goodness gracious me. Only to discover that this 13-year-old child stabbed a woman and then went on right ahead to this kid stabbed a couple of Israelis. And I don't know if anybody died, but yeah, he not only stabbed a couple of Israelis, but also was found basically on the rooftops saying that I want to kill all Jews. I want to kill all Jews. Those are the crimes that this 13-year-old was accused of, and so he found himself in juvie in Israel. I don't even know if he was in juvie or tried as an adult or what. I don't know if he was in juvenile detention or if he was tried as an adult, but that 13-year-old kid found, was it herself or himself? I stand corrected as to whether or not it was a boy or a girl. Found themselves in jail for that reason. Now, that kid also, the question that ought to be begged here is, what was that child trained doctrinally or in terms of rhetoric to have that level of hatred to a point of being with no qualms at all, to shed blood at that age? The Bible says that the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. It belongs to children. Why? Because children are very pacifiable. Children are malleable. Children are teachable. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so because they're teachable, it's easy to train them godliness. But it is also, because they're malleable and teachable, very easy to garner for yourself a child soldier. Give them an extreme rhetoric and make out of them murderers before they can basically solidify a moral compass. And there it is that we were seeing a Palestinian 13-year-old that was made so violent that that child's future was gone way before it even started. From the time they were very little, they were already set up for demonic failure in the future by rhetoric that was trained them in their country to lose their childhood, and in favor of hatred against the Jews. The Bible says that it would be better if a millstone was tied around your neck and for you to be thrown into the ocean than it would be for you to face God in the judgment if you cause children to sin, if you cause any of these little ones of mine to sin. So I guess it'll be better for God to tie a millstone around the neck of Palestinian militants that are training children to be that violent, and be thrown into the ocean than for them to face the God that they claim in the name of when they're persecuting these Jews. Yeah. But for them to face the one true God, it is much better for them, rather than facing him, to have a millstone tied around their neck and for them to be thrown into the ocean. Yeah, that's what's going on. So Bella Hadid, or Gigi, one of the two sisters, yeah, had to bring down her post because there was a lot of lashback from, I guess, those who have to always bend over backwards, like jump through hoops, you guys, in order to prove that something is a lie. What is this? Israeli Twitter, if you want to call it that, or X, pro-Israeli Twitter, put Bella in her place, or Gigi, one of the two, put that chick in her place until she ultimately brought down that post. She deleted it. Yeah. That like, why would you want to run with a lie just because you can? Like, there are reporters like Candace Owens, for crying out loud, out here spreading anti-Israel rhetoric. Everybody's becoming anti-Semitic, and it's looking so hella demonic. I don't even know why people are not waking up to smell the coffee. This level of hatred against the Jews on such a global scale, it is dangerous, guys. It is dangerous because that is what caused the Holocaust in Germany. It is entirely dangerous, and people are not waking up to smell the coffee. And given that it is as global as it is, there's no containing it this time. That Hitler, it was concentrated right there in Europe, whereas now it's global. My own country has cut diplomatic ties with Israel. It's like things are going crazy, out of hand, and the level of anti-Semitism that causes that kind of genocide, understand, is also going to cause any Jewish sympathizers to also be persecuted. And right now, the biggest Jewish sympathizers on the earth are Christians. So we are looking at, never mind a Jewish Holocaust impending us, but a Christian Holocaust. We are looking at the end of the world. There is no time in history, prophesied or predicted in the scriptures, where it is that there's going to be a global Jewish Holocaust other than the tribulation. The Jews are going to get massacred, murdered, and if done on live television, people are going to actually be celebrating. The two witnesses get killed, do you understand, in front of the world, and the world rejoices. Have you seen that happening any minute now? Have you seen any jubilation happening? Yeah, on October 7th, after what happened there were entire riots of jubilant human beings in the streets of Europe and the streets of North America celebrating. Do you not see these things are foreshadowing the tribulation? Do you not see that the world is being desensitized to basically wagging their heads upon seeing murder? Back in the day, whenever reports of people dying in masses, we never got to understand just how it happened, because there was yet to be the kind of technology where a whole militant or terrorist, let's just call them terrorists because they're not militants, they are terrorists, yeah, a whole terrorist wearing a body camera or a helmet camera to display their deeds, the heinous activity, recording rape live, recording murder live, recording burning of people alive. Yeah, before we had such technology so as to go inside a battlefield and record the carnage as it is being happening, we had to just rely on news reporters, numbers that are being given to us by soldiers, by war journalists, correspondents in the field that had the numbers given to them, and then they went on right ahead and reported it. Yeah, that's what under heaven it is that we dealt with back in the day. Information just being given to us by the news, and we ran with it. Now we have access to platforms globally where it is that there's very limited censorship, and people can upload for the first 5-10 minutes something that will ultimately get brought down, but it nonetheless was seen by millions of people before it got brought down, of carnage. And the world had access to visuals of the carnage that happened in Israel on the 7th of October. And with these images, you would imagine that a human population that is sensitive to that level of carnage would react appropriately. But instead, they were jubilant. When Lifu is no longer harsh, anymore, whenever death is no longer poignant to afflict the heart of the deceased, then, not of the deceased, sorry, but of the living, then we are gone as a human race. When you can celebrate, I mean, the two witnesses, not only do they get killed in Israel, but their bodies are left on the street to basically just rot for a couple of days while people just kind of gaze upon them. That's what's good. And they celebrate and they toast and they cheer and they exchange gifts with each other, looking at a dead body. I can barely drive past a car accident scene without trying to find anything else to look at other than what it is that I see. I get disturbed by just seeing silver foil over a body because it confirms that a person has passed away. I get disturbed by that. But in the tribulation, people are going to be looking at entire exposed cadavers on the street and celebrate. Indeed, the same way that women across the world were able to be pro-Palestine despite them raping women to death. raping women to death. So that is the world that we are living in now. Now go tell me of any Israeli IDF soldier that ever raped a Palestinian girl or woman to death, or even child. Tell me of anything of that nature. And again, since Hamas did what they did in the name of Allah, they did it in the name of religion. What under heaven, where under heaven in the Quran is it allowable to have sex at all outside of marriage? Especially if you're out, you're going to be forcing a woman to have sex with you. So how in the world they're able to reconcile with the Quran the rape of women and still be okay in the sight of Allah is beyond me. I don't know anywhere in the scriptures where God ever sent his soldiers, his men, his people into a town to ravage women. Usually the Lord's decree on a land was to kill man, woman, and child, as a holy war has been declared on that land. But never did the Lord ever allow any of his men to ever rape women. So the rape of women by Hamas, for me, I don't even understand how in the world and heaven they can, justify what they did as a holy war. Because according to even their own Quran, they sinned against their God. But you see, if at all you stand on the right side of history indeed, but if at all you are right, you're innocent. In 2023, this evil time that we find ourselves in, you are going to have to bend over backwards and jump through hoops just to prove to people that you're innocent. And despite providing evidence to the contrary, people will still stand with the opposite narrative. People will still run with it. So in a global society so full of lies, where it is that they're being proliferated, and even though there is evidence to the contrary being given to those who are making these observations, they still nonetheless decide to run with whatever under heaven it is that is the lie. It's over. So this war going on in the Middle East right now, it breaks my heart severely because it literally is everything that I am experiencing. The information war is astronomical, and frankly there are more worldlings than there are us Christians. There are more worldlings than there are Jews, and at some point we're going to be so severely outnumbered with our stand that really they will just clump us together in one gas chamber with the Jews. They're just going to clump us together in one gas chamber. It is coming. It's called the tribulation. They're going to clump us all in one persecution stride. Do you understand? This Hitler mindset is going to prosecute everyone even that is a Jewish sympathizer. That is what under heaven we're going towards. That's what we're headed for. And I saw myself lose everything despite being innocent. Not only was I innocent, but anybody at all that was responsible and fact checking would have found my innocence rather than that of my enemies. I already explained this before, so I'm not going to labor on it at length. But I lost everything, and all the evidence, the paperwork, the data, the breadcrumb trail, do you understand, was all of it leading to my innocence. I still to this day am sitting on what would be called exculpatory evidence, and yet a whole conglomerate of people disregarded it. I was ignored by the CCMA, by the Labor Court. I was ignored by the Legal Aid Board. I was ignored by HR at MTN. I was ignored, guys, as in anyone at all that could have been and that was in a position to give me justice chose not to. That's what I'm trying to explain. There was literally prosecutorial misconduct on my part, on the part of the Labor Court, and also on the part of the CCMA advocacy. The advocates who worked there. The one guy that presided over my case, he walked in a prosecutorial misconduct. It was obvious misconduct. He was obviously ignoring an innocent woman and decimated my career. And everybody stood with them. My whole family stood with what MTN did to me. Everybody, guys, my colleagues, they turned against me with militant fashion. Like they ignored me like I wasn't even human. They completely destroyed a human's life. Like she did not deserve to live. Like the way that I was treated. And like I said, I had so much evidence in favor of me. All that a person had to do was just open my case file to see that I was badly done against. And yet people, despite having that data gawking at them, nonetheless decided to proliferate rubbish. And remember, like what I said with Hamas and Palestinians, they manufacture, do you understand, lies like those Israeli prisoners that were released in the hostage exchange. Yeah, the prisoner/hostage exchange. Yeah, the prisoners, some of them who were released, went on right ahead and lied. Do you understand? Yeah, and manufactured, fabricated videos claiming they were beaten up and mistreated. And until real footage was rather released, showing that same person getting out of prison, basically bouncing up and down on a beach ball the way they were so healthy. Yeah, but even with correction of such information as that, people are still standing with pro-Israel, and again with pro-Hamas. Why and even it is that Elon Musk even needed all that information before he could make his decision on Starlink is beyond me. Why he needed all that information is beyond me, because he was supposed to just turn on the television, understand what in the world under heaven Hamas did, recognize the tumultuous, violent state of Islamic terrorism all throughout history. Living in the United States of America, albeit being a South African, he should understand more than any person just how brutish Islamic terrorism can be. And yet, despite that, he still wanted to investigate and interrogate. Why is Israel bombing Gaza? Why has Israel ever bombed anyone? Why? They're always on the defensive. They are literally always on the defensive, never on the offensive. If you think even about the Iron Dome, it is a defensive weapons missiles defense system. Because of all these rockets that keep on flying all overboard, their whole country has got bomb shelters, for crying out. I live in South Africa. I can never even fathom what it must be like to be an Israeli, where you live in a country where every 500 meters, even 500 meters is big, it's long. Every street, every 300 to 250 meters in the street, there's a shelter, there's a bomb shelter. There is somewhere where people have to run just in case there's an explosion. When you live in a country whose infrastructure has been built such that people must always be hiding, then you must understand that you're not living. There is no peace. When you have built architecturally your whole land such that there are bomb shelters every second step that you take, and you can't just sit at a restaurant and trust that you're gonna get to finish your meal without somebody just getting out of a car in a suicide vest and bombing you. When you live in a land like that, I can't fathom. Literally, where I live right now in Vilgejevel, there would be 1 or 2 bomb shelters in this complex where I live. In this complex, if we were in Israel, people who live in that level of luxury, when they go to a country where that level of devastation is always a thing, and then you still want to ask questions, and you can only go to that country. You can't even go across the border to Gaza. You can't, because there you're not safe, even yourself as Elon Musk. Elon Musk, of which went on right ahead to come up with something called Tesla insurance, the insurance of which is basically forcing people to be home by 10 p.m. It's like there's no one you can trust. This very beloved Elon Musk that everybody is so adoring of is already straddling the fence. He is making what appears to be the right decisions today, but he is also manufacturing a vehicle that has got an insurance that is telling people, if you're not home by 10 p.m, we're going to charge you more for your insurance premium, and it's going to more than triple if you are home beyond 10 p.m. All the structures are currently being put in place to make sure that we are a controlled conglomerate as human beings. So when I look at all of these atrocities happening everywhere, I get disillusioned, despondent, and disheartened. A triple D, let that be an alliteration for you in your grill. I get disillusioned, despondent, and disheartened as to whether or not there is any future here on earth at all. I see too much of what's going on in Israel/Hamas, that war, with what happened in my life. I might be just one meager human being, but really proportionally, if I were to expand myself to those, basically all of Israel, I am a person that, even though I'm completely innocent, the world ignores you. Just like Israel. And even though I might have Christian sympathizers, bottom line is I don't have nearly enough. And some of the people that claim to be sympathizing with me that are Christian will ultimately fall off the bandwagon because of the great apostasy. And I have been met with so much resistance as a Christian by professing Christians as well. There are there is a very well-renowned Christian, she's a Christian, she was a poet, at some point, and then she is now a home minister. I don't know what's going on with her type establishment thing. I thought she was sound, and she is to a certain extent, but it's the 1st of December. Guys, 2023, the world is currently at odds. Do you understand? with not at odds, but it is divided on the whole Israel slash Hamas thing. And with the world being as divided as it is, there are ways that people can make a stand for Palestine without making a stand for Palestine. I said already that if you're a Christian and you stand for Palestine, you're very frankly not Christian, or your doctrine is messed up. You don't understand what in the world is going on. Get into history and find your what you stand for. Allow the Lord to train you, because you cannot curse Abraham and in and of yourself not be cursed. Do you understand? And I also spoke in some videos ago that you cannot stay mum on the matter anymore. There is no Christian anymore that is given the luxury to be neutral this time around, because things are so pivotal and they're pointing towards the end of the world so much that unless you take a stand on this particular matter, you're going to find yourself getting deceived. There is no longer any room for flaccidness, for fluffiness. People have got to take a stand. It's either you're with Israel or you are with everybody else, or you cannot be neutral. People have to take a stand, because it is in the absence of taking a stand that people are going to struggle to observe, make a notice. They're going to struggle to make an observation that this thing is leading towards other end time signs. You cannot not have any sentiment concerning this thing for over Israel, because if you don't have any sentiment and you claim to be neutral, you are therefore disregarding the heart cry of Jesus himself, who is your God. Like, where the heart cry is at, that's where yours needs to be. The Lord fashions our emotions and our passions to align with his. And so if you are not charged very strongly concerning this war in the Middle East in behalf of Israel, especially at this very pivotal time, you need to investigate, test yourself to see if you're in the faith. You need to look deeper. You cannot be neutral. And you also cannot be dropping hints at everybody all over the show that you are not neutral, but you're not prepared to say it in so many words. You are, however, pro-Palestinian because you don't know history. You don't know history, and you don't know what your God expects. You don't know what your God is doing. There is a Christian minister that I even subscribe to in one of my channels, and I've been following her for years, pretty much ever since I was still employed and everything. I liked her and I loved her poetry. And recently she just did a sermon or a speech. I don't know what under heaven it is that she's doing. Women are not supposed to be preaching over men, but nonetheless this chickie is doing that. I don't know what's going on, but let's not be critical doctrinally or theologically concerning that yet. We'll get that to that topic another day, whatever. The same female, okay, recently just did a speech or whatever. Let's call it a speech for the sake of being politically correct. For once, I shall stand on the side of political correctness. She was doing a speech, speaking, essentially, expositing, essentially. It's a sermon. Stop calling it a speech. Yeah. On Hagar. Hagar, of which is a Bible character indeed. But the title of Hagar, of that particular video of hers, is something along the lines of Hagar, the suffering servant. God have mercy on me. Hagar, the suffering servant. I did not watch her sermon. I didn't. I only read the title and I looked at the time that it is, and I was like, honey, this is not the time to be doing a sermon like this when there is a war in the Middle East. How in the world you gonna do a sermon as a Christian in this time? It's not 1992 or even day before, like October 6th. It is not the 6th of October. It is not the day before the attack at the kibbutz and the music festival. It is the 1st of December, and you do a sermon on Hagar as a suffering servant, as a Christian. I'm sorry. I live in 2023, and I've been subjugated to subliminal messaging for longer than I can appreciate. I have gotten hinted to more times than I can respect as to what somebody is actually trying to say. Who is Hagar? Hagar is the mother of Ishmael. Who is Ishmael? Ishmael is Abraham's firstborn son. Who is Abraham's firstborn son? A child that was made because Sarah, Abraham's wife, did not trust God to deliver on his promise to give her and her husband a child of the promise. A child that would later come, whose name would be Isaac, who would be given the promise to basically make descendants out of the whole entire planet. The promise was given to Isaac, and Ishmael was born out of mistrust, out of faithlessness on the part of God's servants that was supposed to do better. Hagar was an Egyptian woman that was taken from Egypt when, Abraham was kicked out of there. Abraham was kicked out of, Egypt? Because Sarah, being as gorgeous as she was, Pharaoh wanted her, and then the Lord plagued Pharaoh, and Pharaoh then told Abraham, get out with all of your sheep and your cows and your oxen, blah blah, and also take your handmaidens, the women that were serving your wife, take them with you. Yeah, They got out of there, and now here it is that Hagar was living anywhere other than in her hometown. Anywhere other than in her own hometown. And then Sarah made a decision that Hagar is going to give Abraham a child, since Abraham did not have a child by Sarah yet. A lack of faith in God. Ultimately, Hagar would get run away from Sarah because Sarah was harsh towards her when Sarah finally fell pregnant with Isaac a couple of years down the line from Ishmael's birth. I believe it was 14 years exactly, the gap between them. So the whole thing that happened with Hagar, with Ishmael, with Sarah, with Abraham, and with Isaac, that is literally the beginning of the religion of Islam. The division, the fact that Hagar had to leave Abraham and Sarah, basically the camp of the Hebrews, to go and restart elsewhere, is the beginning of this trauma, this tumult, this war in the Middle East that we are all currently subjugated to the tyranny of globally. This division between Islam and Judaism, and the just excruciating hatred by Islam of the Jews and pretty much every other religion across the world. It commenced with that young man by the name of Ishmael. It commenced with Ishmael. So if at all you're going to portray the mother of the boy, if you're going to portray the mother of the boy that has caused this global catastrophe in anti-Semitism against the Jews, if you are going to portray her as a suffering servant, what the heck are you saying as a Christian woman? You are saying that Isaac is bullying Ishmael's mom. That's what that chick is saying. For the life of me, I'm just Yazin, you can just go and Google that title on YouTube to find out who I'm talking about. And you will therefore also discover how disappointing it is that she has literally taken a pro-Palestinian stand with that sermon. She has taken a pro-Palestinian stand. She made that sermon at a time when the world is divided on Palestine is Israel. You cannot, as a Christian, be pro-Palestinian even in the slightest. She is portraying Hagar as this woman that was kicked out by a mean Sarah and a mean Abraham out of her land. She was made to have a baby by a guy, by this mean chick, who then turned around on her and threw her out on the street after she asked her for a favor. That's what she's portraying. And now her son is mad at the whole. Well, her son is about to die, and her son became what it is that she became. And now her son is being her daughter. Her son is killing children at the kibbutz. Her son is killing mothers and fathers in the kibbutz. And her son is killing kids at the music festival, kidnapping some, taking hostages, killing them even in captivity where they're at, raping the women. Her son is doing all this because he just did not get what it is that he was supposed to get. He was unfairly treated. I don't know how many times I can speak about looking at the Bible with a very carnal mind. When you've got a carnal viewpoint, just dwelling in your brain, you will thoroughly disregard the fact that human beings are born dead in trespasses and sins. And in sin did our parents conceive us. Our hearts are deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. If you don't look at the word of God and the way things are happening in the world from the viewpoint of what God is doing, but rather from what people did, of course you're going to create biases. I spoke the other day about how it is that Ishmael was born first. Yes, indeed. But the promise was given by God. The Lord said in his word, Jacob I have loved, yet Esau I have hated. If we're going to look at the case of Jacob and Esau, Jacob, in the scriptures, if at all you have read the story of Jacob, you will know that in comparison to his brother Esau, he was the nice guy. He was the sweet dude. He was the one that everybody loved. He was the guy in the community that everybody trusted. He was essentially the teacher's pet. Do you understand? While Jacob was the trickster. Jacob was the trickster. He was the kid that everybody could not stand. The dude that is out here always stealing everybody's pocket money. The bully on the school playground that'll take your lunch. That was Jacob. But that's the one that God chose. So if you're going to look at things from the viewpoint of human beings, you are of course going to have qualms with the fact that God chose Jacob and not Esau. Jacob I have loved, yet Esau I have hated. And if you think about how it is that Esau even lost his promise, he was coming back from hunting, basically working real hard for the family to do a better thing by them, and then he came back and he was all famished, he was starving. And then Jacob, knowing that his brother was starving, he was out here flailing some food in his face. And then he was like, give me that, give me food, I'm hungry. Yeah, here's this great guy asking his brother for food. The brother should just be better already. Stop being such a nasty Jacob. And Jacob was like, I'll give you the food if only you give me your inheritance. And Esau was like, fine, whatever, just give me a sandwich. And that's how Esau lost his promise. And the Bible says in, I believe, the book of Hebrews, that God cannot stand Esau for giving away his inheritance for a piece of bread, for a piece of meat. He can't stand that he was willing, Jephthah, because he was hungry. The Lord has a thing about beating your flesh into submission, about by the Spirit putting to death the deeds of the body. You cannot just pleasure your flesh at any moment. Learn self-control, learn delayed gratification. And so the Lord despised Esau from that moment when he gave away his birthright to his brother Jacob, just because he was hungry. He was coming back from hunting. He was coming back from serving his family. He was the good guy, the teacher's pet. And yet his trickster brother tricked him into giving over his inheritance. And God still nonetheless ran with Jacob. So if you're going to be upset at God for basically giving favor to a person that it was the neighborhood trickster, the neighborhood pickpocket, you on that day are low-key saying that you're in a position to be more just than God, and so therefore holier than him, and so therefore create a barometer or a standard of holiness that excels his. Except the Lord looks at all of us like junk. Even our most righteous works are like filthy rags. No one comes to redemption because, ooh, I'm so great and I know how to choose God. No one chooses God, no, not even one person. All have sinned and have fallen short of the glory of God. If you're given mercy at all by God, it is literally free. There is nothing you've ever done to earn it. All of us, all together of us, are worthless. We all deserve to be thrown into hellfire. There is nothing good of us. So if God chooses anybody, literally, it's written in God's word, our God is in the heavens. He does whatever he pleases. If God chooses anybody, it's just because he can. Because there is no one that deserves to be chosen by him. Absolutely nobody that deserves to be chosen by God. There is no one that is ever good for the job, fit for the job. There is never anybody that God chooses because he observed that something was wonderful in their eyes. No, people find favor in the eyes of God just because he is God and he can give favor to whomever he wants to. He is the potter and he does with the pottery what he wants, and the pottery cannot say to the potter, what have you done? And so if you look at things from a vantage point of your sanctimonious morality as a human being, the barometer that you have in your own heart as a human being, you are of course going to make the folly of gazing with favor upon Hagar and feeling sorry for Hagar when God chose the son of Sarah. Sarah was indeed what people in this world would call just that main girl. Like, my goodness, how could you do that? If you just read the story of Hagar and Ishmael and Sarah and Abraham and Isaac and all that whole conglomerate, if you read the story, you will literally come to a conclusion that Abraham is this like namby-pamby rando that just can't put his foot down concerning his mean wife.